Hello and welcome to Weir's Dojang for another Tuesday training tip. I'm Instructor Weir, and today we're going to talk about the elbow. We're going to talk about what makes up the elbow. We're going to talk about how the elbow works, and then we're going to talk about techniques that we use in Hapkido to exploit the elbow. Let's jump right in and take a look. Alright, so let's talk about the elbow and let's talk about how it's made up. So first off, we have the humerus coming down from the shoulder. We have on the outside of the thumb side, we have the radius, and then we have the ulna on the inside, okay? These are the three main bones or the three bones that make up the elbow, okay? Those are all connected in to the ulnar collective ligament, okay? There's also tendons that tie the muscles to the bone, such as the bicep ties in here as well. And there is one other thing that we want to talk about, which runs from the shoulder all the way down to the pinky, and that is the ulnar nerve. So let's talk about that real quick before we get into the joint itself. The ulnar nerve is a great thing to know because if you can find a little notch that's at the end of the humerus and you can squeeze that notch, yeah, Mike doesn't like that very much. There's actually a little canal right there that you can collapse on the nerve, which causes a tremendous amount of pain. When that arm is straight and you squeeze, it causes the arm to go bent. It causes the arm to go limp. You can actually really take control of the person and start to manipulate them, knowing where that nerve is. So let's get back to the joint itself. The elbow is what's considered a hinge joint, which means that it works very much like a door hinge, okay? You can also think of it as a 180 joint, which means that it doesn't move more than 180 degrees. Unlike the wrist, which can go in 360 degrees, this only goes 180 degrees. So there are two typical ways that we will exploit the joint, and then one that just destroys it. We can press the joint, which means that I can hold and base his hand and push up on the joint, and as you can see, Mike raises himself right up to his tippy toes because that's hyperextending the joint. A hyperextension is when you're overstretching those tendons and ligaments. The other way we can exploit this is by popping the joint, okay? That's when we take a quick push to that joint, and it's a jolt, okay? That can be used to either damage the joint or shock the body. There are times when we want to shock that body like an Tommy and just pop it so we can do something else to it. The third thing we can do to it, which is just outright nasty, is snap the joint, where we're not even going to worry about that hyperextension. We're going to take this and we're going to drive it down as hard as we possibly can just to destroy the joint. There's a time and a place for that. We don't like to get there, but it's good to know it. So let's take a look at some of the techniques that we can use to pop the joint, to press the joint, and to destroy the joint. So let's take a look at some techniques that we can use that are going to press the joint, pop the joint, and destroy the joint. Okay, so let's talk about pressing the joint first. Again, pressing the joint is going to be when you're taking the joint, you are basing the hand and pushing up on that joint. You're causing this to try to go more than 180 degrees and just hold it at that pressure. You're not trying to jar it or snap it quickly. Okay, so if Mike grabs it on the lapels and let's say he's about to punch, first I'm going to step offline so I can keep his fist out of the play here. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab his wrist and I'm going to push up on the elbow. Okay, as you can see, he goes right up on his tippy toes. That's a hyperextension of the joint. He doesn't like it very much. Okay, so that's a pressing of the joint. Classic example of a press is when Mike grabs on straight in, and we just come over and we do an arm bar. Okay, an arm bar is a very classic way of pressing that joint, and we can continue this all the way to the ground by just continuing to press on that joint. Okay, so that's a real easy way to do it. We saw in a video before when we talked about rolling the person from their back to their belly. Down, Mike. If I want to roll him over, I can simply push on that joint, and he flops right over. Now it's actually hyperextended as well, and I can continue to apply pressure here and put him in a very compromised position. The same thing applies to him. The same thing applies to that on the ground arm bar, where we're going to tuck it in, we're going to tuck it in, we're going to pinch, and we're going to press that joint. We're going to hyperextend that joint. Okay? So those are all examples of ways to press the elbow to cause pain. Now let's talk about popping the elbow. Popping the elbow is a lot more dangerous. It's a quick motion, which can cause a lot of damage with very little effort very quickly. So we have to be really careful with these. Perfect example of a pop is going to be a scissor block. Okay, when we come in, we just pop that elbow. So when it comes in with a punch, pop, bam, that's damage. Okay, that we don't have the ability to just slowly apply pressure until he says, "Uncle," we just pop. Okay, that same thing can happen if you come from the outside and just walk hard on the elbow itself. That's gonna, I'm like shaking it off because I already heard him. That was a little tap, caused damage immediately. Okay, so these are examples of way to pop the elbow. One of my favorite is a technique we call little big here, where it's a cross hand grab, we come around and we pop it like that, okay? So facing the camera, Mike, if I have him based at my belt, notice when you roll your hand underneath, that shoulder rolls over, that means it's nice and primed, and then a quick shot to that elbow causes damage immediately. These are ways that are really gonna jar the body, okay? I might wanna take him and just give him a quick little pop so I can do something else to him, or I might take him and wanna just go bam and drop him right to the ground with it. Both things are very possible, both things are very easy to do with that quick pop. Now when we're dealing with snapping the joint, okay? We've already hit that point of escalation where we're not playing anymore. We need to actually cause damage to stop the threat. We need to cause damage to put everything back in place to be able to not have an attacker continue, okay? So if that punch comes in, here, snap, okay? Just pull straight down. This can't go any further. This is just gonna come straight down and destroy that elbow, okay? That can be done offensively by coming in and grabbing and snapping as well, okay? Coming this way, make sure the elbow itself is pointing down, come in and snap. That's the thing about it is palm up, okay? You can actually do a nice little throw here too, which is all on the elbow, causes a tremendous amount of pain, tremendous amount of pressure, and can cause quite a bit of damage. So the last thing we want to note on the elbow is something that's a little bit different. So we're not going to press it, we're not going to pop it, we're not going to snap it. We're actually going to use it in the opposite direction. So we talked about hyperextending it this way, but if we take it this way and start to push it together, you can start to separate the ligaments this way as well. Great way to do this is with a danbong, okay? If that danbong is in place and you start to push, okay, especially if you hug it, yeah, that's a lot of pain. That's going to separate the ligaments, it's going to separate the bones, and it's going to cause a tremendous amount of pain. It's more like a nutcracker than anything else. It's something that is used, so a punch comes in, here, bang, and straight down. Tremendous amount of pain using the joint in the opposite direction. Not used nearly as much, but definitely something you want to know. All right, so we talked about the different parts of the elbow. We talked about what the elbow is made up of. We talked about how we exploit it by either pressing it or popping it. A hyperextended elbow is an injury that doesn't really, it's not like a broken bone where it's snapped and then it just heals, you know, in 4 to 6 weeks. A hyperextended elbow or hyperextended joint is one of those nagging injuries. You'll feel it that day, you'll feel it the next day. You're gonna start to not feel it for a little while, and then you'll move your arm in a certain way and you'll get a sharp pain. I know most of us have had hyperextensions on joints. They are just an annoyance more than anything else. The nice thing is it's not permanently damaged unless you do one of those snaps. Train hard, be good to each other, and Hapkido.